And welcome back to another episode of the Double Dog Podcast. My name is Brendan Deek. Thanks so much for tuning in today, guys. If you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. We're talking strictly Philadelphia Eagles today, and who better to do it than my friend Thomas Petersen is with us. Looking good, Thomas. How we doing?
What's up, Brenton? Cowboys week.
It's Dallas week, baby.
Yeah, I think it's been a long time since we did this.
Yeah. We did one before Arizona, right? It was almost like a week and a half.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Arizona yet.
Yeah. That's where I kind of wanted to start. I have a couple questions before we kind of dive into this, before we dive into Eagles Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
First question I have for you, because I've been thinking about this all week.
Yeah.
When it comes to Philly Dallas week, what's your best memory of Eagles Dallas week?
What comes 44-3, I think is my best memory.
44-6.
44-6, right. 44-6. Which was 3.
Yeah. I don't think they needed to be 44-3. I think they won just fine, but 44-6, okay. I think that's the right answer. Deshaun Jackson falling into the end zone,
right?
Mind. And Brandon Boykin's pick comes to mind as well.
That was a terrible. Who was the quarterback there for the?
That was Kyle Orton.
That was Kyle Orton. Yeah.
Kyle Orton, yeah.
I mean, that was destined to go to shit for them. I was expecting the Eagles to win that game.
I was
Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson on that.
Yeah.
What was that? 90 yards.
Something like that.
It was like a 5-yard out, and he just took it all the way.
And it's funny because it's Orlando Scandrick that's chasing Deshaun Jackson in that play. That always cracks me up. Eagles legend Orlando Scandrick. I think the Kyle Orton one probably stands out. The Eagles haven't played well against Dallas lately. Like they are due. If due is a thing in sports, this is the definition of it. Because I think they won 4 straight. I think the last 2 years they swept the Eagles. You can't really count Week 18 last year, right? Because the Eagles benched everybody. But I think it's 4 straight now. Because 2020, actually no,
it's 3.
No, yeah, because Benny DiNucci game in 2020, right? Yeah, that was and Carson Wentz. That was the classic Carson Wentz rolling out to his left and he gets cranked, and I think that was Sunday night as well. That you're right.
Yeah, Cowboys won 7 of the last 9.
Okay, they've kind of owned the Birds a little bit. So yeah,
they have, and it's always in prime time. So I wake up in the middle of the night and I watch Eagles get their ass whooped by the Cowboys, and I'm sick of that. And this is a night game as well. That better not repeat.
What time is it going to be when it kicks off for you?
Is it a 3:30 or 3:20 game? No, 2:30 or 2:20.
So it'll be 2:20 in the morning. So you'll be done at 6 a.m. And are you?
I think it's the same as the Vikings game, to be honest.
Yeah, it will be the same time. Yeah. What are you scarfing down there? Whatever it is, it looks and sounds good.
It's yogurt.
Yogurt, okay.
And it's crunch.
You have a little granola in that yogurt?
Yeah, it's granola, right?
Okay.
What's it called that when you're eating into a microphone? We should get that going.
ASMR.
Right,
ASMR,
exactly.
Yeah.
Some therapy for Eagles fans. If they lose to Dallas, we'll do some ASMR. Feel good.
Thomas eating granola and yogurt ASMR. Oh, God. All right, well, this podcast took a turn. Okay, a couple more questions. One, this one is kind of just a big picture one. I'm curious what your opinion is here. If you were to rank the Eagles in the power rankings right now, where would you put them? NFL.
Top 5, I think. Top 5. But I'll still be cautious about it. Like if the Eagles were to play, say, Bills or Chiefs at this point, I'll still pick the Bills and the Chiefs to beat the Eagles. I think it's very refreshing to see the team winning in different ways, and that not every game is like a blowout game. And they, even though they're facing adversity, they're still finding ways to win games. Mm-hmm. I think this is and we talked about this as well. Like this is the game. This is the toughest defense that they're going to face all season. And the way they won against Jaguars and Cardinals, where the offense completely stalls due to various like penalties and miscues. I think they can't afford to do that against the Dallas defense. And like this is it. I mean, this is the game where Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts can show that they've completely turned around the offense and if they can beat the Cowboys defense easily, or if they can handle the Dallas defense and move the ball and score a bunch of points, they can do it against anybody. So that will make me feel really good of putting the Eagles into that top 3 category in power rankings. But yeah.
I think
Top
three.
five for now.
I think
I'm a little
three is the right.
pessimistic.
I think three is the right answer. I think Buffalo. I think I'd put Kansas City at one. I had the Chiefs as my Super Bowl pick heading into the year. I still feel confident about that. And I think the Bills are number two. The Bills are just pretty banged up right now. They can't run the football. So and the Chiefs can run the football. That's kind of the only difference between those two teams right now. So I think I'd put the Chiefs one, Bills two, and then I think the Eagles are three. But I do think there's a gap between Buffalo, Kansas City, and then Philly, which of course can be closed. But I do think as of right now that the Eagles are probably third, but it's exciting times, man. Okay. And last question. We didn't talk about the Cardinals game, so I wanted to kind of get your opinion on it because I haven't watched any of the film from the Cardinals game at all. Been super busy this week working night shifts, so I haven't touched the Cardinals game at all. And I know you have. Just give me maybe one takeaway on offense and defensive side of the ball.
One takeaway on offense: Jack Driscoll severely limited the offense. Several plays blown up because of him and pressure coming from that side. Like you could see that affected Hurts. A tiny little sneak one taken there. The play calling was super suspect. It was weird. Like there was a handful of plays that just didn't go anywhere, and you looked at it and you say, "What is the plan here?" Like 2-man concepts rolling away from Hurts in a play action rollout where everything's going the opposite direction. He just ends up throwing the ball away.
So 14 called screens in this game.
It's not like it was working either.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were getting. I think they averaged 5.6 yards a pop on that. I believe that was according to PFF. So
right. But a lot of that was due to the successful screens for Goddard, where he picked up like 20 yards and 30.
Yeah, and a lot of it to do with Arizona didn't tackle very well on those screens. Like,
yeah,
I
did.
I think they left some plays on the board. And interesting, the only other team, the highest before this game of screens called in a game was 9. So the Eagles 5 more screens more than the next highest in the league. So yeah, the play calling was suspect. I think that it kind of goes to your Driscoll point where I think they were pretty terrified. Yeah, I'm not terrified, but they were worried that the Eagles' offensive line wasn't going to hold up.
Yeah, and the blitz really affected the offense, and that 7-man at the line look that they gave Hurts completely shook him off. And on 2 plays, he got himself into trouble, even though the offensive line and running back actually picked up the pressure initially, and he would have had 2 seconds to find a guy wide open. And on those plays, there were guys open. AJ Brown got open. Chris Watkins got open. So he could have found people, but he just panicked immediately in the pocket. A big defensive takeaway from the game. I got super sick of seeing as much off coverage as they did because Hassan Reddick and Jordan Davis had tremendous games. Brandon Graham as well. I mean, those guys were getting a ton of pressure on Kyler Murray within 2 seconds, and the ball was just out immediately, and there was always a guy right there. That was frustrating to see, and then poor tackling to go along with it. And when you're playing zone the way they were and not being able to tackle, that's a recipe for disaster. And if it wasn't for the D line stepping up and making a ton of getting them into long downs, they would have lost that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Jordan Davis might have been the best defensive player on the field in that game for the Eagles. He was awesome.
Close too. I mean, Brandon Graham personally was my favorite. He whacked a couple of tackles on pass rushes. We just never saw any production from him because Kyler got rid of the ball real quickly. And kudos to Kyler for getting out of pressure there because the Eagles defensive line really delivered, and they didn't show up in the sack sheet simply because of Cardinals doing a good job of getting rid of the ball.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Eagles versus Cowboys Sunday night. I'm still waiting on the injury report. Still haven't gotten an email from the Eagles on that, so I don't have an update for you there. Do you know anything about what's happened? I know we're recording this around 3:20 p.m. Eastern time. Do you have any updates? I haven't been looking on Twitter or whatnot. I've just
the expectation is that everyone on the offensive line are good to go.
Okay.
Avonte Maddox is in line to play as well. Andre Dillard says he's physically ready whenever he's called upon to be activated to the active roster. So if in case Jordan Mailata for some reason feels bad or injury or the shoulder feels weird throughout the game, Andre Dillard is an option to step in at left tackle. Landon Dickerson, I think, is the biggest stretch to play, but I think he's going to grind it out along with Jason Kelce.
Cool. That'd be huge
Yeah,
if every Eagles offensive lineman can play. Like you said, that I
that's
think
the key. That's the key. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so that's the injury news. On the Dallas side of things, there's not much going on. So Dak Prescott was limited yesterday at practice. Still don't have a full update on who is going to start. There was a report earlier in the week that they are like looking for Cooper Rush to start. They're planning for Cooper
Yeah,
Rush to
that's
start.
bullshit. They just
But
want to get that out.
I
They just wanted to get that out there, so in the hopes that Eagles would solely focus on Cooper Rush in the event that if Dak Prescott is really throwing it well in practice, they can start him.
again 3:21 p.m. Eastern time right now on Friday. I've had a funny feeling all week that Dak Prescott's going to be starting, and I still kind of feel like that. And you know, this could change as we're recording.
As
But
early as it got in there, and
yeah,
I think it was Monday morning when they said, "Oh, Cooper Rush is going to be starting." Look, what?
I know.
I mean,
You don't put that out that early. It doesn't make any sense.
it's Monday.
Yeah,
You're going to
exactly.
see him in practice first.
Yeah. Yeah, like Dak, I think being limited is huge. And this, like, again, this is a guy that's been with the Dallas Cowboys since his rookie season. It's not like he needs to get a load of the offense again or take a lot of time to get ready. Like, if his thumb is good and he can throw the freaking football, he should be playing.
Yeah,
And
yeah, they're putting him in there.
yeah. So I've got a funny feeling. I've got a funny feeling that Dak Prescott will start.
Yeah,
But
we'll
hold
see.
off on that conversation. Okay, so why don't we start with the Eagles offense? Or so we'll start with the Eagles defense versus the Dallas Cowboys offense. Thomas, what are you looking for in that matchup?
I am looking for pressure, pressure, pressure. I want to see the Carson Wentz treatment of whoever's back there, especially if it's Cooper Rush, and the statue he is behind there. I mean, he's had the numbers speak for, they've been winning with him at quarterback. It has not been because of him at quarterback. Through a couple have thrown a couple of picks that's been called back by penalties. Cooper Rush is not good.
Yeah.
That's my. I mean, and if you can rattle him, you won the game.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's what I want to see. I want to see 5-man on the line. I want to see linebacker pressure. I want to see press coverage. And this is a big game for the Eagles defensive line. This is a good week to have another one of those NFC Defensive Player of the Week performances from somebody on the defensive line. And they should have every opportunity to do so. We know, I mean, Aaron Donald, he's a special player in the league. He was rushing off the edge and got a ton of pressure on Cooper Rush. I expect the Eagles to be able to do the same.
Yeah, let's have the Cooper Rush discussion. Okay, so everyone's all hyped up. He's 4-0 as a starter this year, 5-0 if you include last year starting against Minnesota Vikings on primetime. Congratulations, Cooper. You've done well. You deserve some praise. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, he deserves a raise as well.
Yeah, like he's a fine backup quarterback, and he's done well managing this Dallas offense. But when you dig into the numbers and you just take a look at how the offense has performed under Cooper Rush, so since week 2, so week 2 to week 5, the Dallas Cowboys offense is 18th in EPA per play on offense, so below average. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they haven't turned the ball over. And you brought up the fact that he's had a couple interceptions that were kind of called back on plays. They've got some luck involved in that. Cooper Rush is 16th in EPA per play as a quarterback in general. So just he's been okay. Like it's not like he's been dominating. The Cowboys have won on the defensive side of the ball. And one thing that the Eagles have done very well this year is create turnovers. The Eagles are first in the NFL as of today in turnovers per drive. So if you're going to kind of put a matchup towards a quarterback who hasn't turned the ball over in Cooper Rush to a defense that has turned the ball over a ton, I think you have to give that edge to the defense. And I think Cooper Rush, I think the Eagles defense matches well against a quarterback like Cooper Rush, who isn't very athletic, who can't get out of the pocket, and who kind of struggles to find his read after his first read, I guess. So
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's very Carson Wentz-like. So I really, if Cooper Rush is starting, and again, we don't know that for a fact, but I have a good feeling, and I kind of have confidence in this defense going into this game.
Yeah, and that's got to be the thing. I mean, moving on to the offense, but the defense has to win. Jonathan Gannon has to win this game. This is a game where we go, okay, this is the toughest defense that the Eagles are going to play all season, so the defense has to step up in order to win this game.
One other thing that I think the Eagles should do in this game is I think they should be playing a ton of man-to-man. What do you think about that?
Agree.
I don't see why.
If they have Bradbury, Slay, and Maddox.
Yeah, I don't see why you should be sitting back in kind of these soft zones and give Cooper Rush kind of the answers to the test. Like if you kind of think back and look at the Eagles versus Vikings game when the Eagles defense dominated, it was because they were playing press man coverage
Yeah,
and they couldn't do anything. And the Cowboys' weapons are like you got CeeDee Lamb and Noah Brown. Like CeeDee Lamb is, I think you can slot up Darius Slay on CeeDee Lamb and he should be able to kind of not physically dominate him, but kind of do similar things they did to Justin Jefferson.
exactly. And it also makes sense when you're going up against an athletic quarterback like Kyler Murray to play more zone-oriented defense, or at least to have underneath zone coverages. So if he decides to scramble himself, you do have a safety valve looking at the quarterback and reading him while dropping into zones. While that doesn't make too much sense when you're going against a guy like Cooper Rush. I mean, you don't. It doesn't matter if your DBs are turned away from him because he's not going to be the key. Like he's not the guy you're going to be worried about.
What do you make of the Eagles' odd fronts and kind of the way that they transitioned from so in my opinion, the 5-1 defense played pretty well
Yeah.
last week, and even you can go like 5-2 defense. Like the 4-man front, I just don't like. Like I feel like whenever they're in a 4-man front, the Eagles are a better team when Jordan Davis is on the field playing nose tackle, and Jordan Davis hasn't played a single snap yet in a non-odd front this year.
No, and it also makes a lot of. I mean, it's putting a ton of pressure on the linebackers when you're playing that front because, like the D line isn't reacting as much to pullers as linebackers would do. So when you're running this 5-man front, usually they only have one linebacker in the box, and then they have either the other linebacker or a cornerback instead in that nickel out front that they'll be dropping into coverage instead. So that puts a ton of pressure on TJ Edwards, and we saw that against the Cardinals. How I mean, he was able to make a bunch of plays there, but he also misses some tackles, and that's what's going to happen when you put it doesn't matter who you put a linebacker in a 5-man front where you only have one linebacker to react to everything going on to the line, because he's got to play sideline to sideline if they're stretching it out, and he's also got to be reacting to pullers and move his gap relative to what the defensive line is doing. So they're putting a ton of stress on TJ. He's been delivering so far, and that is the key to being able to run the 5-man front as well as they've been doing. Jordan Davis swallowing up the middle, and TJ was playing really well behind it.
Do you have an answer for why Jordan Davis can't play in a 4-man front right now? Like what? I don't really understand the reasoning behind it. Like he did it in Georgia. It's not like he was strictly a nose tackle at Georgia.
Yeah, I think it has less to do with if Jordan Davis can play in a 4-man front. But the tendency that I've been noticing a lot is that the Eagles come out in 5-man front on the first down of a drive, and if they hold the offense to 3 yards or less on that play, so it sets up a second down and 7 or more, then they take Jordan off the field and go into a 4-man front with a more pass rush happy formation, usually with either Javon Hargrave or Fletcher Cox, or with a Milton Williams and Tui Pelotu. And that's basically what they've been wanting. They want more speed on the defensive tackle when they're in those more pass likely situations. But what they do when it's 2nd and 6 or shorter, then they leave Jordan Davis in there. And I actually think that's a pretty good role for him. I mean, because he can push the pocket when he's in there, but it also, like, it's a way of keeping everybody fresh while also, because they're successful on first down. They create a ton of 2nd and 7 or longer than that with Jordan Davis in there. And they're keeping him fresh for if he has to sustain longer drives if they're running the ball well. So I think it makes sense. Do I think he can play in a 4-man front? Sure, but I'd rather have him play in a zero technique in a 5-man front.
Yeah,
when
for sure.
when the drives dictated. I wouldn't want to run a 5-man strict front if they're in 2nd and 10, for example. So I think it makes sense.
I feel like Fletcher Cox and Jordan Hargrave just play better when Jordan Davis is beside them on the field as well. Like I don't have,
creates a ton of man.
Yeah, I'm sure you noticed that as well. So
yeah, but what also happens if you're running that 5-man front and you're in 2nd and 10 is that you're going to have either Josh Sweat or Hassan Reddick drop into coverage or you're going to limit yourself in the coverage front and behind it. Mm-hmm. So that pick what you want. Do you want Davis on the field or do you want Hassan Reddick in coverage?
Yeah, that's true. I do not want Hassan Reddick in coverage. I can't take it. I can't take it anymore. God, there was a play where he dropped back in coverage. I think it was in the 4th quarter last week. It was Arizona, kind of those last 2 drives, was able to move the ball. I think it was on the first drive of the 4th quarter, and I almost ripped my hair out.
It's not what he's being paid to do.
Okay, one last stat I have on just kind of Dallas offense against the Cowboys or against the Eagles defense. If Cooper Rush is starting, The one thing that does kind of worry about me is that the Cowboys have been very good with play action under Cooper Rush since he's been in there. Cooper Rush has a 70% completion percentage when using play action and a 58% completion percentage when he's not using play action. So the 5-man fronts kind of worry me when if you can't get home on those play action passes, the crossers in the middle of the field could be open for Cooper Rush to kind of hit. And when we're talking that odd front, if they are going to do that, they have to get after the quarterback. They have to be able to provide pressure on Dallas. You got a Carlsberg. Let me
Cheers.
go, baby. Cheers. I wish. I got to work in 30 minutes.
From yogurt to Carlsberg.
There you go, baby. Thomas is living life. Anyways, that's the only other stat I got. Anything else? Anything else on the Dallas offense?
No, I'm confident in the Eagles defense going up against this Dallas offense.
Okay, I think the matchup of the game, and I think what everyone is looking to watch is the Eagles offense versus the Dallas Cowboys defense. So it is no surprise or just no secret that Dallas's defense has been very good this year. So they are currently 6th in defensive DVOA. The Eagles are actually 5th in defensive DVOA. I'd probably put the Dallas defense has probably played a little better than the Eagles defense.
Dallas defense has the better. They have the better D line, but overall, the Eagles have the better defense.
Oh, like better roster, yes, but who's played better? In my opinion, Dallas's defense hasn't allowed a team with more than 19 points this year. Like they've been very efficient.
But who they played?
That's you're preaching the choir here. I do think Dallas's defense is a tad overrated. But I do think
it's a good litmus test for both the Eagles and Dallas.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. So, Thomas, what is the matchup that you're looking for on this side of the ball?
Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
I mean it's given. It's whether because Dallas defensive line stunt so much. I mean they want to get Micah and Lawrence stunting inside and have one-on-one matchup against the guards. And if there is one of them that have a slow moment and don't really pick up that stunt, they have a free shot right at the quarterback. They're both athletic. They can both break down. And if you're scrambling out the pocket, they're fast enough to chase you down. So that's one thing. And I'm confident in the Eagles' ability to do that. Silmalo and Lane have a good combination. They've been able to pick up stunts fairly well. That's also why it's so important to have Dickerson and Mailata playing alongside each other. But what I'm expecting to see from Dallas is to send extra guy. I think they're going to send a 5-man pressure on a lot of times, and I think they're going to be stunting on the D-line while they send an extra guy in pressure because they're going to be so focused on what the end is going to do in the first play that if they're sending a cornerback or outside linebacker or safety blitz on the edge, it's gonna confuse a lot. I think we're gonna see a lot more of these, a lot of guys at the line to begin with to confuse the running backs as to who they have to cover or who they have to block in pass protection. Because if you're having these games inside where the guard and the tackle have to overlap with the defensive end and the defensive tackle, and you're coming with a free blitzer off the edge, that's the guy the running back has to take. But if you're lining up two linebackers, say in the A gap, for example, at pre-snap, and they drop into coverage, the running back is going to be looking at those guys to begin with because they're the most dangerous man in the middle. And if they don't come, then they have to see who's coming off the edge. And they did a terrible job of that against the Cardinals, and that created a ton of pressure on Jalen Hurts. So they're going to see that tape.
Look very good blocking against the Cardinals.
Exactly. And they're going to see that, and they're going to say, all right, we're going to do this because we can play man underneath that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great breakdown. I similar to you, I think the DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons versus Eagles offensive line is probably maybe the juiciest matchup of the week in general of any football game. Those two guys going against Eagles offensive line. And what's interesting is when I was kind of looking back at some Dallas highlights, like they blitz them from the same side sometimes. Like it's not like DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons are on each side of the tackles. They're coming from every angle. They're coming from everywhere. And you brought up that the Arizona Cardinals got after Jalen Hurts with the blitz. The Dallas Cowboys right now are blitzing at a 22% rate on late downs. That is 28th in the league. They are able to get after you without blitzing. So I'm really curious to see kind of how Dan Quinn counteracts that and if he will blitz the Eagles on late downs like the Arizona Cardinals did, which gave Jalen Hurts some trouble.
Yeah. And I think it's I think Dan is going to be looking a lot at Cardinals and a very little at Lions defense because with the Lions they blitzed a lot of guys off the line, like off ball blitzes,
Yeah.
and Jalen Hurts simply has too much time to see that. Where it seems as if it looks right now as if he's having these pre snap looks that gets in his head.
It's funny because I was like anti last year, right? I don't know if this makes sense, but Todd Bowles barely blitzed the Eagles in the playoffs last year. Jalen Hurts couldn't do shit.
They didn't, but what they did do is they had like simple cover ones where the underneath coverage wasn't linebackers. They would put the linebackers at the line, they'd drop the defensive tackles, and they'd rush um Devin and yeah, I forgot who the other linebacker is in the
Um,
Buccaneers. You know who I'm
Devin
talking. He's a very
White,
good linebacker.
yeah, Devin White and Levante David.
Levante David,
Yeah,
exactly. So they would rush those two guys, and they'll drop Vita Vea back in coverage. It didn't matter who they said, just the pre-snap looks they were given. That's kind of the same thing they did there. Without sending too much pressure, they confused the shit out of Jalen Hurts. That's a big test for Jalen as to how well he's played this season. Can he go out against the Cowboys defense and still look as competent as he has so far the first 5 games?
Are you worried at all about Jalen Hurts versus the blitz? Is there
Yeah.
something to be concerned about?
Yeah,
You are.
against a team like the Dallas Cowboys, when they're playing a team that isn't like that haven't shown that they're particularly good at it or have individual players that can take over games like the Dallas defense can. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't know if I'm worried. I think I'm more interested, if that makes sense. Like it fascinates me to see this progression of what he's doing against different teams. Like Vikings, he tore them apart, but they
Yeah.
also gave it an easy look. Um, and so we know, okay, I mean, you can do that, but we also see the same tendency of scrambling around when things start breaking down. I'm sure that if we go into detail of other quarterbacks, the way that we're doing Jalen Hurts, we're probably going to see a lot of the same thing with when they're showing these pre-snap looks with tons of pressure and all of this. But it's Jalen Hurts we're focusing on here, so we don't care about all the other guys. We want to see him take control of a defense like that. But we also want to see Shane Steichen and Sirianni call play, like make play design, not just screens to the wide receivers all the time as the only checkdowns for that.
Play it was a screen. Jesus.
Yeah.
It was like that was the only check they had. They went into the game with one check against the blitz.
Or they had more. We just didn't. I mean, I know they didn't. They didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm like worried per se, but I'm probably on the same boat as you. Like it's caught my interest, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's caught my eye. He's 27th in the NFL right now in passer rating against the blitz. So I guess bottom of the league. That's got to get better, right? Like that has to get better throughout the year. And again, it's funny because you feel like a running quarterback against the blitz, like you should be able to escape those situations. But it almost goes back to, I don't know if you remember last year. Remember the Miami Dolphins, I think it was Thursday Night Football, just absolutely blitzed the hell out of Lamar Jackson on Thursday night last year. Like the Lamar Jackson struggled a ton against the blitz last year. So it almost may be like the same kind of progression.
Do you know what his EPA per play against blitz is?
Jalen Hurts, I do not know.
I'm just curious because of course, I mean he doesn't.
The passer, yeah, you're right because he's able to escape. So I'm assuming the EPA per play is a lot higher.
Yeah, exactly. Because when like his rushing ability and taking into account the Lions who blitzed in 50% of plays where he created a lot of positive, and maybe it's more. I don't know.
No, you're probably 100% right there because he was able to scramble a ton in that Detroit Lions game, and he kind of saved the day with his legs. So I'm assuming the EPA per play is a lot higher because he was more efficient. Okay, one last thing I have on the offense versus the Cowboys defense before we get into prediction time. So I think this has to be a run the ball game. I think that Jalen Hurts, of course, if you want to see him progress as a passer and you want to see him kind of take off, I think you maybe push that back a week. I think the Eagles should be running it down the Dallas Cowboys' throat. The Dallas Cowboys don't have very good interior defensive linemen and linebackers. If there's a way you can beat Dallas, it's running the football. So if you just take a look at the stats from the Dallas defense side, they are 19th in yards per carry allowed. They are 18th in rush defense DVOA. This is a team that you can run the football on. And what's the best thing the Eagles can do right now is run the football with that offensive line and Jalen Hurts. So I think that should be the focus of the game.
Yeah, I think this is a big Kenneth Gainwell game because I think it's going to be a lot of focus on moving the chains for the offense, and Miles Sanders just got off another super rough game in terms of hitting holes and dancing in the backfield. And when Kenny Gainwell finally got some touches in the fourth quarter, I mean, it was absurd. A stat for you here. I noticed this during the game before the Eagles' last drive, where they ran the ball. Running backs had 9 carries, and it was all Miles Sanders throughout the entire game.
Wow.
And when Kenny Gainwell got on the field, it was significant how well he hit the gaps, the design gaps. That he didn't stutter; he just ran straight for it. And even if it was closed, he would still just run and follow his blocks. You still pick up 3 or 4 yards. I'm still seeing so much dancing from Miles Sanders, and it's not so much that you're in the game. You're going, oh, just hit the hole, man. Come on, why are you dancing in the backfield? It's those subtle steps that just, I mean, instead of just plowing through like just follow your blocks. These guys are good at it. They can maul through people. And I think it's going to be a difficult game for the read option, simply because DeMarcus Lawrence and Michael Parsons are too damn quick for Jalen Hurts to outrun them. I think if they're going to run this option play, it's probably going to be with Dallas Goedert coming as a lead blocker on the backside. So what you'll see is Dallas Goedert on one side, the running back on the other side. They'll do zone read, and then Dallas Goedert will come across, and he'll be the lead blocker for Jalen Hurts if he chooses to take that backside lane to have a lead blocker against a guy like Micah Parsons if he gets out there. But yeah, I'm 100% with you. I think they need to run the ball in this game, and as soon as Cowboys go with stacked box there, it's going to be Smitty and AJ.
Yeah,
have to get them involved in this game.
Yeah, AJ Brown's got to get more involved. Like you had a tweet earlier that you want this to be the AJ Brown game. It's got to be. I don't know if that's be the AJ Brown game, but 3 catches, 32 yards, three targets on one drive, and then they don't target him the rest of the game. That cannot happen in this game.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And I think he matches up well with a cornerback like Dix. I mean, Dix is not very good when he's when he's 1-on-1 against a physical receiver. I mean, he goes for the ball in an aggressive type manner to beat the wide receiver to the catch point. But if you're in a physical situation down the field, I'm banking on AJ Brown against him all day long.
100% agree with you there, man. Okay, Thomas. Prediction time. What we got? Hit me with it.
Eagles 24, Cowboys 10.
24-10. Okay. I'm actually kind of with you a little bit. I think so. The spread right now is 6.5 according to FanDuel. I think that's pretty high. I was expecting 5 when the week started, so it's up to 6.5. It probably drops down to 6 before game time. I think they win and they cover. I think this. I don't know if this is a statement game, but I do think.
Oh hell yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say statement game. Fuck it. I think it's a statement game. I think they control the clock this game. I think the running game is going to be very efficient. I think they run over at least 170 yards in this game. And I think this is going to be a big Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell game, even Boston Scott. Like, I think they should kind of go back to the running back by committee style, like they did kind of halfway through the year last year. Maybe not just run Miles Sanders in the ground. Like you said, Miles Sanders didn't look very good against Arizona. I 100% agree with you that Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott got to get more involved in this one. And I think they do. And I think Nick Sirianni and Shane Steichen can call a good game. I'm going 27-14 Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, that's also what feels so good about the Super Bowl run in 2017 is that they swept the Cowboys that year. I mean, it was such a good feeling after, like losing a bunch to the Dallas Cowboys. Now they had 3 straight since. It's about time that we get this dub and that Jalen Hurts gets his first win against the Cowboys.
They're due, baby. They're due for a Sunday night rocket, and that link,
they better
be buzzing.
They better.
I wish I could be there. All right, Thomas. Anything else before we go?
Nah, we'll be up all night watching the game.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun.
Well, get your coffee in you, Thomas. It's gonna be 2:30 when it starts. But thanks so much for jumping on, and everyone, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Really appreciate it. Make sure to check out our sponsors, True Classic and BetterHelp. Make sure to check out yesterday's episode. We broke down 6 storylines in the NFL that we found intriguing so far. Make sure to check out Weekend Wagers. They'll be dropping right after this one if you want to win some money this weekend, and we will talk to you later.